Unexpected revelation, how Michal's role in God's divine plan for David transforms faith stories. In the days when Saul was king over Israel, as the sun dipped below the horizon in Gibeah, Michal stood poised at her window, a delicate silk curtain swaying gently in the warm evening breeze. The flickering oil lamps cast shadows that danced across the ornate decorations of her chamber. Duty hung heavy upon her heart, for the air was thick with the scent of incense, which masked the underlying tension that gripped the royal palace. Michal sensed it all, the whispers of conspiracies that seeped through the walls like poison, and they all centered around David, the one chosen by God to be king. David, the shepherd boy turned warrior king, had captured not only the hearts of the people but also hers. Yet, with love came peril, for King Saul's heart burned hot with jealousy. This turmoil eluded the comfort of royal riches, as Michal knew too well her father's wrath. She peered down into the shadowed gardens below, their once lush beauty now marred by uncertainty, as sordid tales of treachery were shared in hushed tones among the court. As evening deepened, a sudden knock shattered her thoughts. Timidly entering, Jonathan, son of Saul and beloved friend of David, revealed urgent tidings. "Your father seeks to kill David, Michal. You must act swiftly." The gravity of his words struck her like a javelin. The echo of her father's relentless ambition weighed on her soul. Torn between her father's expectation and the love that bound her to David, her heart throbbed with trepidation and resolve. In a moment of divine inspiration, Michal chose the path of rebellion against the throne that had birthed her. Though attired in royal finery, she felt stripped of power, girded only by her fierce love. "I cannot let him die," she whispered, resolute. The time for action had come, and she slipped from her chamber into the darkness, the cool night air invigorating her spirit. There, in David's hiding place, she found him brooding, a fugitive ensnared by the political storm raging around them. As they embraced, a current of fear electrified them, an awareness that their love could ignite a conflagration that enveloped all they held dear. Her father's grip, so fiercely tight around the crown, would not release its hold without a fight. Using a rope, she gently lowered David into the night, the shadows around them trembling like the very fabric of her loyalty. With every heartbeat, she conscience fought against her father's command. "Run, my beloved." Her whispered plea mingled with her tears, a declaration of defiance, a choice that melded love and treason. Though he vanished into the belly of the wilderness, her heart would never know peace again. Saul's wrath soon slithered through the palace corridors, and whispers of betrayal clung to her like the heavy incense smoke. Michal stood at the precipice of all she had known, anxious and heartbroken, with no clear vision of how her name would be remembered or what her sacrifice would cost in David's affections or in the eyes of her father. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. In the following days, as turmoil unfurled within the palace, the spectacle of despair loomed large over Michal. Her choices had reverberated throughout her world, a tremor causing darkness in the hearts of those bound by loyalty and love. Yet, beneath the chaos, there stirred the undeniable presence of God, weaving a tapestry of divine purpose through the pain of vision incomprehensible, yet palpably alive. In this clandestine battle between allegiance to family and fidelity to love, Michal stood poised, the threads of fate intertwining, awaiting the culmination of a plan unfathomable to her heart. The question lingered heavy: would her strength and faith lead to greater victory, or would it rend her soul asunder? In the tension, Michal found solace in seeking the sovereign will of her God, a flicker of hope amidst the shadows of uncertainty. As the days turned into weeks, the sun's light struggled to break through the looming clouds of despair that enveloped the royal palace in Gibeah. Michal moved about her chamber, each step weighed down by the burden of her secret. The laughter that once echoed in the halls of her childhood had been replaced by the ominous silence of a people caught in the throes of fear. Whispers of betrayal and unceasing searches for David haunted her as she engaged in her daily duties, her heart forever caught between her loyalty to her father and her love for the fugitive. Unbeknownst to Michal, the hand of the Lord was at work, and the tides of her life were being transformed in ways she could not yet comprehend. Meanwhile, outside the palace walls, David roamed the wilderness, a man of faith armed with nothing but a slingshot and the promises of God echoing in his heart. Fleeing to the cave of Adullam, he found solace in the company of those who felt forsaken by Saul's tyranny. The distressed and discontented rallied around him, forming a band of warriors, united by a common cause. That it came to pass that David, in his anguish, poured out his soul to the Lord. "O God, why have you forgotten me?" he cried, echoing the words of the psalmist who would come long after, revealing the depths of his trust amidst turmoil. His prayers, the essence of raw despair woven together with unwavering faith, reached the heavens. The Lord heard him, and the whispers of hope began to intertwine with the fabric of despair. In the palace, Michal could feel the tension rising like waters in a swollen river. Each night she would glance outside her window, praying silently for David's safety. She could imagine him, strong yet weary, evading the clutches of her father's men. The fire of love ignited in her heart, a reminder that her decision had been a vessel for divine purpose. Then one night, as she gazed at the stars dotting the darkened sky, a voice, clear yet gentle, stirred in her spirit. The message was not of abandonment but rather of promise. "The Lord sees your heart, Michal," it whispered. "His plans shall not be thwarted." With renewed resolve, she understood that she was part of a grand design far greater than herself, a divine alignment that would shape the future of Israel. Days turned to weeks, and word of David's growing following soon reached the ears of Saul. Furious at the betrayal of his daughter and inflamed by murderous zeal, the king summoned his men. "Find David," he commanded. "Bring him to me, dead or alive." The hunter had turned into prey, and the net around David tightened. As Jonathan, loyal son of Saul, risked his own standing to warn David of the impending danger, he made his way back to Michal. "You must help him flee again," he urged, his voice laced with urgency. "The wrath of our father knows no bounds, and his heart is fixed on vengeance." Torn anew, Michal felt the weight of sacrifice. "What will I become?" She pondered silently, knowing the risks involved not only for herself but for David as well. In that moment of contemplation, she caught a glimpse of the sovereign hand of God preparing for deliverance, a realization that the Almighty was orchestrating moments beyond her comprehension. In the midst of struggles, that hope fluttered alive in her heart. With every breath, she resolved to stand firm, trusting that the work that God had initiated through her actions would indeed lead to victory. And as the sun dipped below the horizon once more, an unseen purpose lay emboldened in her faith. The narrative had taken unexpected turns, yet the divine mystery remained, for what she would soon discover was woven into God's plan to exalt David, the man after his own heart, setting the stage for a covenant that would echo through generations. As the dawn broke over the land, Michal felt the weight of impending decisions pressing upon her heart. The morning light filtered through her window, casting gentle rays onto the cold stone floor, a reminder of the stark reality she faced. She gathered her thoughts, bracing herself for what must now be done. Her love for David surged through her veins like fire, igniting a fierce determination within. "He is the Anointed One," she declared to herself, recalling the prophet Samuel's words echoing in her mind as he anointed David with oil, declaring him king over Israel. 1 Samuel 16 verse 13. In the quiet of her chamber, Michal crafted a plan. She understood that her father, King Saul, would not rest until David was captured, perhaps even slain. "I cannot stand idly by," she resolved, her spirit unyielding. With nimble hands, she gathered some of David's belongings, his sword and his garments, knowing that these would aid him in escaping the clutches of the king's wrath. Each item felt heavy with significance, a testament to her love and loyalty. Meanwhile, in the cave of Adullam, David and his band of distressed souls strategized against the looming threat of Saul's men. David's heart, though burdened, was fortified by the presence of those who had rallied around him. He prayed earnestly, beseeching the Lord for guidance. "O God of Israel," he cried, "lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation, on you I wait all the day." Psalm 25 verse 5. As he prayed, a sudden intuition stirred within his spirit. He sensed that Michal had not forgotten him. That night, after the sun had set and shadows danced across the land, Michal summoned her courage. She opened the window to her chamber, speaking softly into the darkness, "David, arise, for the hour is late, and peril is near." She lowered a rope, woven strong with threads of her anxious hope. "Climb, my love, escape while there is still time," she urged, her voice trembling yet resolute. David, of great stature yet humble heart, emerged from the hidden depths of the wilderness. Taking hold of the rope, he climbed swiftly, his heart racing at the thought of Michal's dangerous choice. As he reached her window, their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the world around them faded, leaving only the bond forged in faith and love. "How did you know, dear heart?" he asked, awestruck by her bravery and devotion. "The Lord has stirred my spirit," she replied, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "He has revealed the path we must take. We are part of his design, together woven into the very fabric of Israel's future." With urgency, she handed him the sword and garments and warned him, "You must go, swiftly, to the wilderness of Ziph, where the Lord resides." David nodded solemnly, gratitude flooding his heart. The weight of her sacrifice was not lost on him. "I will carry your love with me, Michal," he vowed, his voice barely a whisper, yet filled with strength. Unbeknownst to them, Saul's south men were drawing close, emboldened by the king's wrath. As the shadows deepened with the advancing night, Michal felt a tremor of fear grip her heart. "Should they find you, it would mean dire consequences," she warned, a tear escaping her eye. But there was also an unwavering conviction the very hand of God was guiding their steps. Just before he slipped into the night, David turned once more to Michal, his heart swelling with hope interwoven with uncertainty. "I promise, I shall return," he promised fervently. "Let your heart be steadfast," Michal urged, trembling at the uncertainties of fate, knowing her path intertwined with David's most securely held promises. And as he departed into the darkness, a profound sense of divine purpose enveloped her. Alone once more, she murmured into the stillness, "Lord, let our faith be the anchor for the storm that lies ahead." Little did Michal know, the tapestry of their lives was being woven with strands of courage and sacrifice. The days to come would unveil the divine mystery set before them, for the Lord was preparing his servant David for a kingdom that would encapsulate the promise made to Abraham, an everlasting covenant with his chosen people. What lay behind and what lay ahead remained cloaked in the sovereign shadows of the Almighty's decree. As David fled into the wilderness, the moonlight cloaked him in its silver glow, illuminating the path ahead yet leaving shadows behind him. The weight of Michal's sacrifice settled heavily upon his heart, a cloak of love that mingled with determination. With each step, he called upon the Lord, his refuge and strength, knowing that in the wilderness, God would meet him where despair threatened to entangle him like thorny briars. Days turned into nights as David wandered through the rugged terrain, his companions clinging to hope. Within this fellowship of the discontented, they lifted their voices in prayer and song, their cries reaching the heavens for deliverance. Psalm 57 verse 1. David sought the Lord's face, clinging to the promises spoken through Samuel, stirring in him a flame of faith despite the darkness surrounding them. Meanwhile, back in Gibeah, fear-plagued King Saul's heart mingled with rage at the loss of his son-in-law. "Bring me news of David," he commanded, his eyes burning with a tumultuous fire. In his mind, David was not only a rival but a thief of his throne, a specter haunting his every waking moment. The king summoned his criers and advisers, seeking counsel as to how to crush the son of Jesse once and for all. A spy must be sent, Saul resolved, desperation clawing at his rationality. One who knows his movements, where he shelters. We will press until he is cornered as a wild beast. The advisers nodded, fear evident in their faces, for they knew Saul's wrath was fierce. Let us send for Ahimelech, the priest. He knows God's will and might discern David's fate, one suggested, hoping for guidance that I in the quiet of the night. David and his men took refuge in a rocky alcove, the scent of bitter herbs filling the air. It was here that a breath of revelation swept over him. "O Lord," he cried, "you have preserved me thus far. Deliver me from the hands of my enemies, for they lie in wait to ensnare my soul. Remember your covenant with your servant. Psalm 59 verses 1-2, amidst his supplication, a vision unfolded before him. He beheld Michal, her spirit intertwined with his, a beacon of his hope and steadfastness. The Lord has a purpose that we may not yet see, he murmured into the stillness, and I shall not falter for what lies ahead. In Gibeah, word reached Saul of a soothsayer, a woman of Endor, known for her clandestine communion with the spiritual realm. Curiosity and desperation clashed within him. Shall I seek the counsel of one who walks in darkness, though I know it is forbidden? He pondered with tremors of foreboding. Yet his heart craved answers. Saul, veiled beneath the shroud of night, disguised himself and ventured forth, back among David's men. Doubt began to seep through the cracks of their resolve. Shall we merely live as outlaws, forever fleeing? Will our lives the anointed be lost to shadow? One despaired. David, sensing the rising tide of worry, quelled his fears. Brothers, the Lord will not abandon us. He has been our stronghold, we shall emerge as gold refined by fire. Our destiny lies in his hands, Psalm 66 verse 10. As days wore on and the search for David intensified, the hand of God was about to reveal the intertwining destinies of King Saul and his chosen servant. For in the midst of this dark pursuit, an unforeseen twist awaited both, a moment when the veil would be lifted, and God's sovereign plan would begin to unfurl in a way neither could fathom. But what David could not know was that Michal, even in their separation, was part of a grand tapestry of divine orchestration that reached far beyond their immediate peril. A revelation was dawning, one that would entwine the fates of kings and the fulfilling of ancient prophecies, intertwining love, sacrifice, and God's unfaltering faithfulness. As morning light began to break through the mountains, David awoke to the sound of rustling leaves and distant whispers echoing through the trees. Gathering his men, he felt the deep stirrings of anxiety in his heart. We must move swiftly, he urged, for we cannot linger here. The enemy hunts relentlessly. Yet within him surged a newfound resolve. David lifted his gaze towards the heavens, beseeching the Lord, "Guide us, O God of Israel. Shield us as the mountains surround Jerusalem." His voice was a mixture of desperation and faith, evoking the ancient words of the psalmist, setting the tone for their journey ahead, Psalm 125 verse 2. In Gibeah, Saul's convoluted plans began to unfold. The dark path of disobedience led him to the dwelling of the woman of Endor, the soothsayer. "Bring forth a spirit," he commanded, his voice laced with urgency. He had abandoned his trust in the Lord and sought a counsel shrouded in darkness. "I need guidance to defeat David, my adversary," he proclaimed, unaware that in this sin-stained pursuit, he only sealed his fate ever more tightly. The woman, sensing the king before her, trembled. "You seek a spirit from beyond? Are you not the one who has put away the magicians and the soothsayers?" Yet, driven by his fear, Saul insisted, "Do not fear. I am the king." By ruse, he made her a promise, his own soul tormented as sinful choices echoed throughout the chamber. As the woman called forth the spirit of Samuel, a deep silence fell over the earth. "Why have you disturbed me, Saul?" came the solemn voice of the prophet. "If you had not forsaken the commands of the Lord, you would not stand here today in fear. You have sought counsel from the dead, while the living God has departed from you." The word struck Saul like an arrow piercing his hardened heart, conjuring despair so deep that it overshadowed his ambitions. Meanwhile, David and his men traversed the wilderness, their hearts yearning for comfort and assurance. After the sun dipped beneath the horizon, an unexpected visitor emerged from the shadows, a messenger from Gibeah. His face was ashen, betraying the turmoil left in Saul's wake. "David," the messenger cried, "the king has sought counsel and has been told that the Lord has torn the kingdom from his hand and given it to you, son of Jesse." The words hung heavy in the air. David's heart trembled within him, for this was the fulfillment of the prophecy spoken through Samuel, a divine light penetrating the darkness of his trials. "Is it so?" David's voice was but a whisper, mingled with wonder and contemplation. The path ahead was nothing he had anticipated. "What of Michal? Tell me of her." In that moment, amid the news of triumph and distress, the messenger hesitated. She remains in Gibeah, her heart burdened. Do not fear, her love for you is steadfast. She stands against her father's anger, a beacon of hope even as shadows loom. Hope blossomed within David, knitted together with a shift in understanding his beloved was intertwined in the divine purpose unfolding before him. As the dawn's light began to crest the horizon, David rallied his men. The Lord has taken away the kingdom from Saul, but we must not act in haste. Let us trust in his timing, for our victory is assured, yet it is not without trials. He turned his gaze upward, grasping the depth of faith. It was a treasure locked within God's covenant, illuminating their path in darkened times, and as these events unfurled, an even deeper dimension loomed on the horizon, for unbeknownst to David, the time was drawing near when God would intertwine his reign with Michal's resilience, unearthing a deeper battle for the kingdom, a struggle not merely against Saul but one that would bridge the paths of fate and love, setting forth a legacy unforeseen in human eyes, unfolding the next chapter in the divine narrative. As the sun climbed higher on that fateful day, David's heart bore witness to the unfolding of God's sovereign hand. He gathered his men again, imparting words of encouragement and strength. Brothers, today we shall stand firm in our faith. The God of our fathers has delivered us promise upon promise. Let us not falter, nor yield to fear. The men, emboldened by David's resolve, sharpened their swords and stood at the ready. The wilderness echoed their growing anticipation, each shadow whispering of the enemies that encircled them, but David knew there was a greater threat than mere men, the spiritual darkness that had claimed Saul. Little did David know, as he prepared for the path ahead, that even now, Michal stood resolute in Gibeah. Bound by love and honor for her husband, she faced the tempest of her father's ire. Saul's madness deepened, for he was a king desperate to cling to power that was slipping away like sand through his fingers. Fetch Michal, he commanded, for I shall not let her folly ruin our line. At her father's command, Michal knelt before Saul, her spirit unyielded. Father, my love for David burns bright as the morning star. I cannot forsake him. Strengthened by her devotion, she refused to cower under the weight of a tyrant's rage. The fiery spirit within her was a picture of the strength and resolve that David would one day need to reign. Do you defy your father? Saul's voice thundered, his eyes aflame with fury. You have betrayed your own blood. I have not betrayed you, but I stand by the promise made by God himself. My heart belongs to David, the anointed one, Michal boldly declared, her voice steady against the storm of distraction and despair. Thus, the battle between father and daughter raged within the palace walls, unseen by David but echoing a greater struggle, the tension between light and darkness, faith and despair. David, meanwhile, surrounded by his loyal men, sensed that divine intervention was near. As night approached, he called upon the Lord with fervent prayers, his spirit heavy with the burdens of kingship yet buoyed by the prospect of hope. O Lord, you who see all, bring Michal to me safely. Knit our destinies together in this holy alliance. As he prayed, word spread among the people of the land. The tales of Saul's erratic behavior and God's declaration over David began to circulate, igniting a fervor among the discontented. Even those weary of Saul's oppression began to gather, hearts inspired to rally behind God's chosen, the man after his own heart. Suddenly, a rustle through the trees startled David's men, and a figure emerged, an old priest, one thought lost to the passing tides of time. David, son of Jesse, the man spoke, voice trembling, the Lord has led me to you. I bear news that will change the course of our future. His eyes, glistening with the light of ancient wisdom, paused as they scanned the faces of David's weary followers. The time has come for the return of the Ark of the Covenant to God's people. With it, his presence tangibly rests amongst us, uniting the tribes under his banner of grace. David's heart soared. This was no mere rumor. This was a divine invitation to embody the will of God among his people. Indeed, we shall retrieve it. For the hearts of the people must see the glory of God among them. He exclaimed, conviction pouring forth like a river after the storm. Yet, in Gibeah, the tension mounted, and unbeknownst to David, Saul's heart clung to fear born from the prophecy he could neither escape nor understand. It was a fear that would soon threaten not only his reign but the very kingdom itself. As darkness deepened, David felt the weight of his calling pressing upon him. He looked towards the distant hills where Gibeah lay, and in that moment of divine clarity, he sensed the nature of God's greater plan, a revelation that would not merely unite a king and his people but challenge the very heart of what it meant to be chosen. In the melee of war, love, and divine calling, would Michal's faith prove to be the lifeline that carried David through his greatest trials? Would the tension between father and daughter yield a fruit too sweet to abandon? In the sovereign plan of the Almighty, the answer awaited just beyond the horizon, a truth bound to transform the narratives of countless generations, for God's purposes unfold in ways that are often beyond the grasp of human understanding. As the first stars began to pierce the twilight sky, David and his men prepared to embark on the journey that would lead them to the Ark of the Covenant. They gathered their provisions, their hearts aflame with purpose. The air was thick with anticipation, and the wilderness reverberated with the hushed prayers of those who sought divine favor. "Let us bear this holy burden," David proclaimed, his gaze firm and unwavering. "For the ark is not merely a relic, but a symbol of God's covenant with us, a testament that his presence goes before us. With it, we shall reaffirm our fealty to his ways and strengthen the hearts of our brethren." His words acted like a spark, igniting a fire of courage in the hearts of his men, who rallied together, ready to face the darkness that loomed in Gibeah. Meanwhile, in the palace of Saul, Michal's fervor echoed like a haunting melody in her father's heart. She had endured too much tyranny to remain silent. "Father," she implored, her voice both soft and resolute, "you must see the truth. David is favored by God, and his heart is pure. Your wrath will not secure the throne, but rather hasten its demise." Saul's face contorted in anguish, the turmoil within him rising with the tide of his madness. "You speak treason, my daughter. In your foolishness, you would sacrifice your heritage for a shepherd." His voice trembled as he commanded, "You will renounce him, or face exile." Yet Michal's spirit would not bend, her love for David stronger than any blood ties measured by earthly claims. "If loyalty to God makes me a traitor, then let my heart be bold and unyielding. As the sun rises, I stand with my chosen, for his destiny is entwined with the divine purpose." In that moment, a hush fell over the palace, as if heaven itself paused to witness the battle of wills. Saul, conflicted and tormented by the weight of prophecy, turned from his daughter, seeking solace in his despair. As David and his faithful band trekked towards the hills where the ark lay, they could feel an unseen force drawing them closer, a divinely orchestrated pull that whispered of the covenant's restorative power. Upon their arrival at the sacred site, the air shifted, charged with holy anticipation. David's heart raced as the glory of God manifested around them. "Fetch the ark. For we shall restore the worship to the Most High and bring back his honored presence amongst us." The priests reverently lifted the ark with trembling hands, knowing that within its sacred confines lay the tablets of the covenant and the merciful seat of God's presence. Suddenly, from the shadows of the trees, a figure emerged, a watchman from Gibeah who had escaped the wrath of Saul. His eyes held both fear and urgency as he approached David. "King David. A warning must be delivered. The madness of Saul is deepening. He plots your demise while Michal stands between his rage and your future." David felt the weight of this revelation sink into his bones. "Michal. Is she safe?" His heart raced at the thought of peril befalling her, the woman who believed in him even as the world turned against. The watchman nodded gravely. "She stands firm, but her refusal to submit only heightens her father's fury." In that moment, a profound realization dawned upon David. The triumph of their journey would not only be in retrieving the ark but in securing Michal's safety and establishing his claim in a realm of faith rather than bloodlines. Her loyalty was a beacon of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. Moved by the strife of his beloved, David lifted his face to the heavens, pleading silently for direction. As they prepared to return, he understood that the struggles faced within the walls of Gibeah were etching a path toward a new understanding of leadership, a leadership defined by the heart rather than the throne. The winds whispered of a storm on the horizon, yet in the eye of that tempest lay the promise of God's redemptive plan, as he weaved together the hearts of David and Michal through trials they had yet to face. In this sovereign orchestration, would they converge at the nexus of faith and fear, or would the darkness swallow the covenant's light? The unfolding of God's masterpiece awaited, as the resolution lay just beyond the veil of earthly strife, destined to reveal the greater tapestry of divine purpose and love. As the sun climbed over the horizon, illuminating the earth in a golden hue, David's heart quickened with both hope and dread. With the Ark of the Covenant cradled upon the shoulders of the priests, he led his men back through the treacherous paths of the wilderness. Their footsteps echoed upon the dusty ground, each step a silent prayer for Michal, each heartbeat a plea for her safety. "Fear not," David spoke to his weary warriors, "for the Lord is with us. His presence accompanies the ark, a shield against our enemies." Just as he uttered these words, the air crackled with tension, the very fabric of their reality bending under the weight of unseen trials pending. Meanwhile, in the fortress of Gibeah, Saul's fury raged like wildfire, consuming all semblance of reason. As he paced his chambers, the walls of his mind echoed with the whispers of his inner torment. David and the ark. He spat, his eyes blazing with jealousy and wrath. How can I allow such a threat to rise, to take what is rightfully my own? Summoning his most loyal captain, Saul demanded, "Gather the men. We march at dawn. We will intercept David and reclaim the ark for the throne." The captain bowed, a swirl of fear and loyalty coursing through him. As twilight descended once more, casting an eerie glow upon the land, the watchman turned to David, his voice a mere whisper in the gathering shadows. "My lord, I have seen the despair in Michal's eyes. Her heart fights for you even as her father's ambitions darken her fate. She is entangled in a web of treachery that could doom both of you." David's eyes narrowed, the weight of destiny pressing heavily upon his mind. "Then we must act swiftly. We shall not allow the shadows to consume the light of our covenant." It was at this moment that a prophetic vision gripped David. Instead of leading his men directly into combat, he turned to face the assembly. "Though our path may lead us into the mouth of danger, it is courage guided by faith that will forge our way. We will prepare an offering of praise unto the Lord, for we cannot retrieve his presence through conflict alone." The men paused, their hearts igniting with fervor. Together, they lifted their voices in song, a melody that soared through the trees and into the fabric of the heavens. As they worshipped, an unseen peace enveloped David, who felt the Spirit of God move amongst them, affirming their quest amidst chaos. Meanwhile, Saul's forces began their march under the cover of night, and Michal, alone in the stillness of the palace, knelt upon the cool stone floor, her heart in turmoil. She spoke fervently to the Lord, "O God of Israel, protect my beloved. I have sworn my allegiance to David, and I fear for his life. Let your will be done." In that moment, the air thickened with divine presence. A voice, soft yet piercing, loomed in the depths of her spirit, "Your loyalty shall lead to a greater testimony than you can foresee. I shall protect David, and you shall stand as a pillar of strength in the suffering to come." Unbeknownst to Michal, the battle lines were drawn, and as dawn broke, David and his men were poised between worship and warfare, their hearts entwined in a covenant of faith that tethered them to divine purpose. As the day's first light cascaded over Gibeah, two destinies stood on the brink of collision: Saul, maddened and vengeful, and David, resolute in divine calling. Would the love of a daughter strengthen the strands of God's promise, or would the wrath of a king unravel the tapestry of a covenant? The ultimate intention of heaven was about to be revealed, for within the heart of Gibeah lay the seeds of victory that only faith could cultivate. As dawn painted the skies in shades of gold and crimson, David's army, strengthened by their worship, prepared themselves for the potential clash with Saul. With the Ark of the Covenant resting among them like a beacon of hope, David gathered his trusted men, his voice steady and resolute. "Brothers, today we stand not just as soldiers, but as the servants of the Most High. Let us not meet our adversary with swords untempered by faith." The urgency in his heart surged as he remembered the burden upon Michal. What shadows had tightened around her heart in Gibeah? Our God, the God of Israel, had chosen him as king, yet here he was, still hunted and pursued. With every heartbeat, he felt both the weight of leadership and the love of his beloved. Meanwhile, in Gibeah, the sun rose to find Saul's forces arrayed, a fierce column of men swearing loyalty to their king, fueled by his blinding rage. "Today, let no trace of David remain," Saul declared, his voice a tumult that stirred the hearts of his soldiers. The king's once noble purpose was now warped by jealousy, an unholy flame that consumed his understanding of brotherhood and kingship. As the ranks tightened, a whisper of hesitation flickered through Saul's mind like a fleeting shadow. Had not David once played the harp to soothe his troubled spirit? Yet, this reminiscence was extinguished quickly by the tempest of his wrath. "We must draw them into the light of battle, lest they steal my command," he shouted, rallying his men for the march. Back on the path to safety, David gathered his warriors in a moment of prayer. "O Lord, grant us discernment. Remind us that our fight is not against flesh and blood, but against the powers of darkness seeking to silence the voice of your chosen." The air was thick with expectation, as their faith wove an invisible shield around them. In her chamber, Michal felt the weight of her father's impending vengeance and the turmoil of her heart converging. "Lord," she prayed fervently, "you know my love for David and the promise of your covenant. Illuminate a path through the shadow that my father casts upon us." With every syllable spoken, she sensed the power in her words rippling through her being, a connection with the Almighty rising in response. As she finished her prayer, the gentle rustle of the wind caught her attention, and a figure appeared at her window, an emissary of God's design. It was a trusted messenger. "Michal, we must act swiftly. David awaits the morning with his men, for they feel the heaviness in the air as well. Your loyalty has stirred heaven's heart, and it shall fortify you." The conflict escalated as the two armies drew nearer. David's band of worshippers recited the ancient words penned in the Psalms, and the sound reverberated through the trees. "The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear?" They sang in unison, holding fast to their shield of faith. Saul's forces advanced, and in that moment of divinely ordained convergence, ground stirred with palpable tension as hearts expected the clash of their fates. But David, sensing something beyond the impending storm, turned once more to the heavens. "Let our hearts be attuned to your voice, O God. In our fear, may we discover faith, and in our strife, may we find your sovereign hand at work." Just then, a dazzling light broke through the morning mist, dividing the skies as if heaven itself chose to intervene. For indeed, unbeknownst to them all, in this fierce contest between despair and faith, the Lord of hosts was poised to reveal a miraculous deliverance through the heart of an unseen bond, a promise woven within the love of Michal, destined to alter the course of Israel itself. As dawn broke fully, nothing would remain unchanged, for God's sovereign plan was tuning the hearts of all towards an unexpected revelation. As the sun reached its zenith in the sky, illuminating the land with golden rays, the tension hung palpably in the air, a silent prelude to the clash of destinies. David and his men stood firm, their spirits soaring upon the wings of prayer and worship, unwavering as they prepared for the battle that lay ahead. David felt the weight of responsibility pressing down, yet held fast to the promise of God, fierce in his resolve. "We shall fight, yes, but not in our strength alone. We rely on the covenant of the Lord, who has chosen us. Let our hearts be resolute in faith." In the shadowed halls of Gibeah, Michal sensed the tempest roaring in her father's heart. She had heard the rising clamor of Saul's men, the angry shouts thick with vengeance and despair. Yet, even amidst fear, she found solace and strength in her unwavering loyalty to David the Anointed One. "O Lord," she prayed, voice trembling yet fierce, "let love be my compass amidst the storm. Be a shield for my beloved, confounding the efforts of the wicked." And in that sacred moment, heaven bent low to witness a daughter's fervent plea, affirming her place woven into the great tapestry of divine history. As the two armies drew nearer on the battlefield, the sound of drums echoed like thunder across the valley. Saul marched forth, his eyes wild with rage. "Bring forth David. He must perish this day." Yet in his bloodshot gaze lay seeds of doubt, for a haunting chorus of memories surfaced, David's sweet harp melodies that once soothed his spirit. Back on the battlefield, David shielded his heart from turmoil, lifting his eyes to the heavens amidst the chaos. "O God, lead us forth with courage. For the fate of your people rests upon our shoulders," he called out to his men, their faces illuminated by the sun, emboldened by faith. And as the armies clashed flesh meeting flesh, heart against heart, a voice pierced the conflict, reverberating through the very core of creation: "Stand back. For the Lord fights for you." The words came as a mighty wind, silencing the clamor of battle, compelling both sides to pause. Unseen but felt, the presence of God rested among his chosen, his hand poised in sacred intervention. Then, as if in response to Michal's heartfelt prayers, a splendid light erupted over the battlefield, casting sinuous shadows and illuminating the truth that lay at the heart of the unfolding saga. Michal, from her vantage in the palace, witnessed a sight that ignited her soul, a brilliant radiance descending like a veil, heralding God's victorious deliverance. "Even now, O Lord, you weave our fates together," she whispered, trembling with as David watched the divine light unfold around him. A stillness ensued in the hearts of his men, momentary serenity before chaos. "Trust in the Lord," he exclaimed, feeling the breath of God upon them. At that moment, a hush fell, for the Spirit of the Lord moved among the soldiers, witnessing the divine balance between love and loyalty manifesting as one. In the distance, as the chaos reverberated, word rushed back to Saul, a messenger, desperate and breathless, bursting through the fear-bound ranks. "King Saul, the women of Israel speak of a daughter who stands unmoved. Michal defies you for David. Her father's throne stands on the edge of ruin, both kingdoms threatened by the depth of her courage." Saul's fury erupted anew, yet within the fray, seeds of whirlwind envy began to burgeon into the depths of his conscience. The knowledge that Michal, his own flesh and blood, had chosen love over loyalty to a corrupted throne seared through his heart like a dagger. She would forsake her heritage for a shepherd? He grappled silently, the realization twisting his emotions into a gnarled eye. In the dimness, David turned his head to the sound of the commotion. Strangely moved, he sensed the truth: a simple love born of loyalty becoming a pillar in the kingdom's fate. The weight of his mission crystallized in clarity. It was not only a battle for crowns but a clash of hearts driven toward divine purposes. "We must unite our steps under this providential bond." And as celestial forces flickered in the atmosphere like silken threads of light, David lifted again to the heavens. "O Lord, let victory be fashioned not from blood but from hearts entwined in your love. Allow us to grow in strength for Michal, who holds her ground amid the storm." Empowered by faith, he closed his eyes, his spirit fortified, aware that the Lord's design transcended battlefield dread until indeed, a hand reached forth from the heavens, bridging the divine and earthly realms, preparing the way for the promise made to Abraham. "We shall overcome," echoed through the skies, reverberating within every soul present. In that glorious revelation, hearts ignited into embers of courageous resolve, a unified purpose forged through sacrifice and love, empowering David and Michal through the tides of adversity. And as God's sovereign plan unfolded before them, they would come to experience a profound truth: the love of Michal, steadfast and resolute, would ultimately serve not just as a weapon against Saul's fury, but as a testament to God's faithfulness, sealing a legacy that would span generations, a dynasty poised upon the foundation of divine love and covenant. The battle of kings gave way to a greater battle, a battle of hearts, ignited by divine love, illuminating the path forward as a nation began to awaken. Dear friends, we witness in Michal and David's story an enduring message of faith's power and love's unswerving fidelity. As we contemplate the depth of their courage, may we also act boldly in our own lives. This is your moment to embrace God's call. If you are inspired by this journey, you need to subscribe now to stay connected to God's Word. Leave a like now to help spread God's message through the algorithm. I urge you to comment your reflections on how this story impacts your faith. Don't wait even one more second. Share this powerful testimony instantly with at least 5 friends who need to hear God's truth. Together, let us magnify His name and continue to shine as lights in the world.